Okay, so we're still working on the big Java early objects, chapter 7, section 1 on arrays. And here it has a special topic over here that's called make parallel array into array of objects. So you know that if we're creating an array, we have to have the set data type for everything that we have in that array. So if it's integer, everything has to be integer. If it's double, everything has to be double. So if I want to have my student name and my student scores, test scores, then I have to have parallel arrays, one for the names. So if I have name, let's say first name, last name, so I can have two for the first name, last name, and I can have another 5 or 6 for the scores. And they call it parallel arrays because the first index belongs to this first student, first name, last name, score 1, score 2, score 3, and so on. Now, the suggestion here is, instead of creating these parallel arrays to use it, we can create an array of objects. So in this case, we have account number and we have balance. One of them is int, the other one is double. So we mix them up. So there's a mixture of it. So coming to this class, you might want to think and say, okay, they are not the same data type. I cannot put it in the same thing, even if you think about it as a 2D arrays that we're going to get to it later. You cannot do it with the same data type. So what you need to do is to create a parallel array. So this index is going to have the account number here and related balance to it. Now, to avoid doing this, it's suggested to create a class and create an object for it, and then use array of objects. So in this case, we are going to create an object of accounts that's going to have, so it's going to have these instance variables in it. So we're going to create a class with these instance variables. Now that we have that, we can create a bank account, which is array of objects. Remember, this account has to be created. It has to have the object for it. You cannot do it with the classes. So you need to create an object for it, and then you can put it in here. So now that you have array of object, each object in the array is going to have the account number and it's going to have the balance. You can have your methods in there. You can have account number and balance as public, which is not very safe to do it. So that's the suggestion instead of parallel arrays to do array of objects. The next topic is about enhanced for loop. So we have seen the for loop that goes from, so this is the for loop that we have seen, traditional for loop. We start with the 0, and then we go to the lengths of it, and then plus plus. That's the traditional way of doing it. Now, this for loop is called for each. That's going to go, so this is the way it's happening. So we're going to say for double element values. That means it's going to go through this array. It's going to pick up each element, and it's going to put it in this variable. That's the type of array elements. So I'm going to go to the first one. I'm going to pick up whatever's in the first one. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to do whatever I need to do and go on with the next one and next one and next one. So that's the for each, which is very useful when you want to access your, so you want to access your array. So you're going to be reading stuff for it. Just a shorthand with doing that. Remember, we are taking the elements from the array, we put it in a variable, I'm going to use that variable. So this would not be a good way if you want to update your array element. This is just reading from it, because if I do anything with this element, remember, element is not part of the array. So if I do anything with the element here, if I change it or whatever, it's not going to affect my array. This is the variable by itself, separate. So that's what we are talking about, that if you do any kind of a modification with the element, it's not going to affect your array. So you're not modifying it. So if that's what you want to do, maybe this is the way to modify your array. So if I just reading from my array, I'm going to use for each. If I want to modify it, I'm going to use the traditional for loop. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. You can look at the self-check 7, 8, and you do those self-check to be sure that you understood what we are talking about over here and bringing your questions to the class.